All right, welcome everybody. October meeting of the CNY Solidarity Coalition. Thank you all for coming. We weren't sure it's such a nice day whether everybody would make it. Great that you were able to be here. Good news is we got a lot on the agenda today. Bad news is we've got a lot on the agenda today. So my job is to keep it moving. We're going to do a couple quick announcements to start off, and then a couple presentations. We're going to hold off on announcements from the floor to see if there's time until after the presentations. And if not, please send us stuff to put in the newsletter for Tuesday if you have important announcements. So, coming up, Lisa Harold is going to pop up out of her seat and speak to us about the upcoming No Kings rally.
Okay. We are going to have a No Kings 2 rally along Erie Boulevard between Kinney and East MC Street. It's going to be a honking wave essentially, and it's going to be very similar to No Kings 1 that we did at the mall. We are looking for marshals. If you are interested in being a marshal, please see me afterwards. I'll be in the protest team meeting, and we're also looking for people to start to coordinate and lead these protests. So that's all I have to say.
This is our last meeting before the November meeting, and election day is coming up. We want to take just a minute to recognize briefly just any candidates for office for November that are in the room. Please stand up, let us know you're here, and people can find you and talk to you later. Denton is here. Okay, so yeah, talk to your friends, get out the vote. Make sure everybody votes. Local elections are tremendously important, as the Republicans learned 15 years ago. They basically took over voting. Okay. Yeah, additional announcements, please send us a newsletter. Oh. And we are going to. Okay.
Thank you. Three things real quick. Is anybody here at their first CNY Solidarity meeting? Okay, amazing, welcome. So our usual structure is we're going to meet all together here in the big room for the first part of the meeting, and then we're going to be breaking up into smaller committee meetings. At the end, when we switch to breakup, one of us will announce and tell you what those committees are. Second quick announcement, John Mannion is holding a virtual town hall on Tuesday. I don't know anything about whether it's still possible to sign up for that, but several of our members got invitations to it. And they've been asking on our various communications channels for suggestions of questions to ask if they get an opportunity to do that. So if you have a good idea there, maybe pop into our legislative teams meeting, which is one of the committees that will meet. Last thing, so I posted on a couple of our channels this morning. There's a nice article in the Post Standard this week, and I posted a gift link so everybody should be able to see it. About a recent immigration trial at the federal district court downtown, where twice in a row juries deadlocked and there was a mistrial. And I just really, and there's the reporter talked to some of the jurors, and I just really want to get that article in front of as many Central New York eyes as we can. So please share it on your networks, because everybody who is a registered voter in Central New York is a potential juror on these cases, and the more people who read about this, the better. So we'll continue sharing that, but please share it with your own networks as well. Thanks.
We're going to go to the next item, which is May Memorial Unitarian Society is applying to be an affiliate member of CNY Solidarity Coalition. So we're going to, it is a big step. And we welcome the faith community to becoming a participating member. So, Judy and Sarah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Judy Jerome, and I'm Sarah Crowley. And we're just going to give you a brief overview of May Memorial and what we do, who we stand for, how we are as a faith community. I have handouts. Can somebody do handouts? My name is Judy Jerome again. My pronouns are she, her. And This is the articulated mission of our church and the vision. My history with May Memorial, a bit. It was about, I'm old, it was about 1980, 81. My son was enrolled in Bernice Wright Nursery School, the lab school over at Syracuse University. He came home one day and said that Reggie said to him, Nathan, you need to be saved. And I thought, we were without any faith community. We were a do nothing at that point, and I knew that I needed to find a place to go. A friend, one of the parents at Bernice Wright, said, you really need to try May Memorial. I went and I did. Next. These were the minister's words that greeted me when I came first, and it was reiterated every Sunday morning after that. I'm just going to read them quickly. Welcome to our temple, our synagogue, our mosque, our kiva, our church, yours and mine. We welcome people from every heritage and faith. Come as you are. Come with your doubts as well as your convictions, with your hopes and your fears, with your failures and your aspirations. Here, may no one be a stranger. May all who come find a welcome. That, to me, distills the welcoming community that is May Memorial. Next. May Memorial has always had a commitment to social justice. Reverend Samuel Joseph May was one of the ministers, who was our namesake, and a reformer who fought for the abolition of slavery, women's rights, peace, and public education. From its earliest days, the congregation has been a home for people committed to social justice and moral courage. In the 20th century, May Memorial members joined the civil rights movement, opposed the Vietnam War, and stood up for reproductive freedom and LGBTQ plus equality, and we still do. This is something I remember. During the 1980s, May Memorial was part of the wider sanctuary movement, offering protection and advocacy for refugees fleeing violence in El Salvador and Guatemala when the US government was refusing asylum. And our minister was actively engaged in fighting the School of the Americas, sometimes called the School of Assassins by critics. The School of the Americas was a US Army training school, originally in Panama, and was later moved to Fort Benning, Georgia. It trained Latin American military officers in counterinsurgency, intelligence, and combat tactics. Many of its graduates went on to commit human rights abuses, torture, assassinations, massacres, particularly against indigenous peasants and labor activists in Central America. Our minister at that time, Nick Cardell, was in prison as a prisoner of conscience for his demonstration against the School of the Americas. He served time in prison in a federal prison camp along with two other members of our congregation, Dan and Doris Sage. Dan was my advisor when I was in the School of Education. He was a professor at SU. They served 6 months in federal prison. Today, we continue that tradition through anti-racism work, immigrant and refugee support, climate justice, and interfaith advocacy. Guided by our Unitarian Universalist values, we strive to put our faith into action by working for justice and compassion in Syracuse and beyond. this is what we believe. I'm not, these are our 8 principles, has to do with the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the goal of a world community. Our latest principle has to do journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. We're passing around a little flyer there that has those principles on them. This is the CNY Solidarity Pledge. This is what CNY Solidarity does. You can read it for yourself, but it seems to be congruent to me. So why become allies? We share a deep commitment to justice, democracy, and community. Our Unitarian Universalist values call us to stand with others in resisting oppression, building equity, and working for a better future. By partnering with the coalition, we strengthen our collective voice, connect with allies across Central New York, and put our faith into action through solidarity. That is why this is important.
I'll just say a few. Thank you, Judy. That was great. So I'm joined the church in 2016, so I'm a more recent member, and I did it when Trump got elected, and I felt like I needed some kind of spiritual home and finding some people, like-minded people who felt as distressed as I did, and finding a spiritual home that might give us all some comfort and hope. And I have found that, and we're in the fight for our life right now. I don't have to tell anyone that. And the way to win it is to build coalitions, huge coalitions. And we might have to build coalitions with people that we don't always agree with in normal political circumstances. We might have different views on particular issues. We might vote differently. But this fight for democracy, I think, as you guys know very well, has to be huge and broad. And so this coalition seems perfect, or this allyship seems very easy to me because we share the same values. So there's not a real conflict around there at all. We share a lot of the goals and values. And like Judy, when I joined, I learned more about the history of the Unitarians and their history with abolition, but also with the civil rights movement really struck me. People fought and died for civil rights that were Unitarians, and so I think we have a long history of social justice, and I'm glad that. Thank you for considering us joining me.
I've got a little display back there with handouts if you wanted to pick some things up. And I also wanted to introduce our minister, the Reverend Joe Van Root. She would be available for advancing things as well.
So, we have a decision-making process about accepting allied organizations to join our current allies: Syracuse Peace Council, the Workers Center of Central New York, Syracuse Immigrant Refugee Defense Network, Urban Jobs Task Force, Syracuse Culture Workers, and the Central New York Area Labor Federation. So, first step is to ask the group, are there concerns that would stop us from accepting maybe more than Unitarian Society as an allied organization? Anybody have any concern about that? They'd like to express, Judy? No?
No, I'm open for questions.
Okay, or questions anyone would like to address? Given that no one expressed an objection, how many here are in favor of accepting University as Unitarian as an allied member? Any opposed? That was easy. Sunny Cousin, it's the first faith organization that has joined as an ally, so we're open to hearing from others as well. We're very much welcome. Thank you. Presentation, we have presenters from Syracuse Party for Socialism and Liberation, Jewish Voice for Peace, and Syracuse Peace Council on Palestine. And it's something that we're very happy that they're here. It's something we have put regularly concerns in the newsletter in terms of articles or actions. And we want to hear more information from people who've been working on this in much more focused direction than we have. So we're glad you're here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Okay, thank you for having us here to speak. We're part of a loose coalition of organizations that have been working together since October 7th, 2023. Many of us have been in solidarity with the Palestinian people for decades. We're not trying to speak on behalf of Palestinians. They're more than able to speak for themselves, and we strongly encourage people to follow the voices of people in and from Gaza and the West Bank. We work to uplift their voices and to act in solidarity with their actions. I'm here today as the Syracuse Peace Council with the local chapters of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and Jewish Voice for Peace. While we acknowledge this as a controversial and heated issue, we don't buy the myth that it's complicated. In the next 30 minutes, we will briefly cover how U.S. and Israeli repression are interconnected, share some of the latest statistics, contextualize the Israeli occupation, give you some ideas of what you can do, calls to action, and hopefully leave some time for questions. We wanted to start with explaining why we think it's important for people in this room and others to talk about Palestine anytime you're talking about the rise of authoritarianism in the U.S., or the militarization of our streets, or the continuous kidnapping on the part of immigration agents, or the devastating cuts across the board to social services.
I did it early, sorry.
The title of the Palestinian Youth Conference that was just held in August in Detroit was Palestine is the Compass, and it rang so true to me. And I want to speak to that idea, what it means for activists, before I turn the presentation over to my comrades. Many have asked what Palestine has to do with what we're facing in the US, or why is it so important to the Peace Council and others that Palestine is front and center at rallies and in lists of demands. There's so many concrete reasons, and some of them are up here. The over 600,000 deaths to date official, although true toll is probably twice as high, over 180,000. The 92% of residences that have been destroyed and damaged. The 82% of the Gaza Strip that is a militarized zone or under displacement orders. The 86% of cropland that has been damaged. The 100% of the population in Gaza, Deir Bala, and Khan Yunis, which is almost 2 million people that are facing starvation. These horrifying statistics, combined with the recent polls in the New York Times showing a majority of American voters oppose sending additional economic and military aid to Israel, should translate to the end of military support for Israel. Yet, as we all too well know, the Trump administration, along with many in the corporate Democratic establishment, continue to betray the will of the people by going full speed ahead with a blank check of military aid to Israel. So, one reason to keep talking about Palestine is the ongoing genocide and U.S. public opinion is that the ongoing genocide and U.S. public opinion demands that we do. But a second and perhaps more compelling reason for myself, and I hope others, is what you often hear us say. None of us are free until all of us are free. The imperial boomerang is a thesis that governments that develop repressive techniques to control colonial territories will eventually deploy those same techniques domestically against their own citizens. Or simply put, what goes around comes around. The bottom line is you cannot arm and fund genocide, occupation, apartheid, and war crimes without consequences. Eventually, the tools and tactics used on them will be used on us. What happened there will happen here. So looking at recent history, let us remember that over the past 8 years, 2 completely different US presidents, one a Democrat and one a Republican, have fully backed Israel's genocide. Every school, every hospital bombed, every life ended, every journalist killed was made possible with the financial and political support of the US. And what does the use of these tactics look like on US citizens? Well, perhaps the deportation of celebrated Latino journalist Mario Guerrera, or the ICE raids in Chicago where children are jacked naked from their homes and put in zip ties, or the ongoing attack and introduction of the National Guard into Chicago yesterday, and so many other egregious acts. This is what it looks like when we don't stand up to fascism in other parts of the world. Boom. The repressive techniques used to come home to roost as increased surveillance of civilian populations, militarization of the police, and racialized violence. Therefore, Trump's rise to power cannot be understood without us looking outward and recognizing the role that the US state violence plays across the world. The protests that you have seen over the past years, the chanting we have done at so many rallies, is not only a protest of genocide, but a cry out to restore the core humanitarian principles that we want governing life in this country and in all countries. If we are to survive this next chapter of history, we need to embrace that Palestine is the compass and none of us are free until all of us are free. I'd now like to pass the mic to James to elaborate on some of the connections that you may be interested to as taxpayers.
Thank you. I'm James from the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Oh, yes, absolutely. So, Party for Socialism and Liberation, in short, advocates for the socialist transformation of society and an end to the imperialist wars which are produced by and feed into our current economic system. With a show of hands, who here is horrified by ICE's abduction of immigrants in upstate New York and throughout the country? Excellent. Thank you. These actions are made possible by a culture of surveillance using tactics and technology tested in Israel, provided by Israeli firms. We've known for a long time how different law enforcement organizations receive training in Israel, but we'll look at some concrete numbers. 2014, the Department of Homeland Security awarded Israeli Weapons and Surveillance Corporation Elbit Systems $145 million contract for surveillance along the Mexican border. And of course, this is based on technology tested along Israeli borders. In 2024, ICE entered into a contract with Paragon Solutions, an Israeli manufacturer of spyware. This was signed by the Biden administration, was placed on hold for review. The contract was reactivated last month for a total of $2 million. This software has been implicated in spying cases in Italy, targeting journalists and activists. At home, this investment is not one-sided. As we know, just up north, Lockheed Martin provides aircraft and missiles to Israel. They're used in the bombings and assassination campaigns in Gaza, and they have components manufactured right close to home in Liverpool. So these genocidal acts, as we illustrated, are made possible through the massive U.S. investment in the Israeli military. From 2000 to 2020, Israel received $58 billion in foreign military funding. In 2024 alone, that ballooned to $17.9 billion. The graphic on the right illustrates, it's even going off the screen. It illustrates the enormity of U.S. investment in the Israeli military. That line on the right is military funding specifically. From 2019 to 2023, the U.S. accounted for 69% of all of Israel's arms imports. We also provide all of their active combat aircraft. This has enabled atrocities in Gaza, increased raids and settlements in the West Bank, and then the expansion of their war into Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iran, and Qatar. This is not possible without U.S. support. So, to return home again. This is a rough estimate of the local tax contribution to Israeli weapons. And as we all well know, Syracuse, according to a study conducted from 2019 to 2023, our child poverty rate was 45.6%, worst among cities in the U.S. with a population of at least 100,000. We have continuing problems with lead exposure in our housing, slum lords in the city, the visible decline of our city's homes. And in light of that, our tax accounted for population, $10 million of our taxes have gone towards weapons for Israel. This money could have paid for 6,175 households rent per month. This could have given 20,725 families 1 month of free groceries, paid for 3,427 children's free or low-cost health care. This could have paid 107 elementary school teachers for 1 year. This could have paid for 28,042 households with solar energy for the year. This could have canceled student loan debt for 260 students. Now, as a caveat, the 17.9 million is, the billion is divided by population. If anything, I would expect that with the proximity to the Lockheed Martin plant, this area has contributed even more to this effort. But what I would ask is, would you rather spend $10 million to aid the death and destruction overseas, or $10 million to help housing and education at home? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I am a member of Jewish Voice for East Syracuse. Since to be here with you all today. So as Lee and James explained, this is an international issue with local connections and impacts. So we're up against a lot, as we are domestically, but we're not powerless. So I want to just tell you briefly about Jewish Voice for Peace. So JVP, for short, is the largest progressive Jewish anti-Zionist organization in the world. We're organizing a grassroots, multiracial, cross-class, intergenerational movement of U.S. Jews into solidarity with the Palestinian freedom struggle, guided by a vision of justice, equality, and dignity for all people. So, yeah, great. Thank you. So currently, Jewish Voice for Peace is focused on a couple of different kind of action campaigns with catchy but similar names. So these are some of the things that you can do, some small actions that we'll also circle back to at the end. But they have kind of similar sounding names. So the first one is called Block the Bombs. Sorry, it's cut off a little bit there. And the other one is called Break the Bombs. So we're going to present on the background for both of these campaigns. So starting with, this is a nationwide campaign that is targeting House representatives called Block the Bombs. That's the name of the campaign. And this is to promote and to encourage our representatives to sign on to a relatively new bill, HR 3565, which was introduced in May of this year by Representative Delia Ramirez and some colleagues. She's from Chicago. And this would prevent the U.S. from sending major weapons to Israel for use in war crimes in Palestine. So this campaign is gaining momentum. There are currently, as of today, 55 members of the House who have now signed on as co-sponsors. The Congressional Progressive Caucus, which is 100 members, has officially endorsed the bill in a historic first. And even not particularly progressive representatives, such as Paul Tonko in the Albany area, have signed on to this. However, our current or local representative, John Mannion, has not. So we are banding together and emphasizing the need to demand his accountability to our community and to urge him to sign on to this bill if he wants our support. So members of our group, JVP Syracuse, have been calling his office daily to show him where Syracuse stands. And while we have heard from the staffers that we're contacting that they're hearing our message, he still has not made a public promise in any way. So we need your help. We'll circle back to the call to action at the end. We also have some handouts that Lee is providing, and we'll have a Q&A at the end Next, I will pass it to my colleague Carol to provide a bit of context on the second campaign and a little background on what Israel wants.
My name is Carol Resnick, and I am a member, and I'm here on behalf of JVP, but I am also a longtime member of the Syracuse Peace Council. What are Israel bonds? They were developed early in the 1950s, and I believe that photo, if you can see it well, sort of reflects what what it felt like at that moment. It was a fundraising appeal that got started early on after the state was established and has continued. So we have to look now at what they are, what are Israel bonds, and why are they important. I'm going to give it to you in the simplest terms I can because I only understand it in simple terms. I am not a financial person, and I am overwhelmed when people give me not simple terms. So they are a financial vehicle that can be purchased by individuals or institutions. They are like a U.S. Bond. They're a bond, a government bond. They form a meaningful piece of Israel's income, making up 25% of their foreign debt. They are actually a terrible investment from a financial point of view. And so in a certain sense, as that picture suggests, they are more of a gift and a voice of support than they are a likely way to make a lot of money on investment. They have a low fixed rate of return, and they cannot be traded, meaning that once you have bought your bond, it's yours for the duration. And that becomes a very important piece when we are looking at these bonds as part of the investment portfolios of large retirement systems, whose job it basically is to maximize the funds available to their current and future retirees. Okay, so Break the Bonds is a national campaign led by Jewish Voice for Peace and partners with the intention of impacting Israel's policies of apartheid and now genocide by advocating for institutional financial divestment. In many ways, that goal is similar to the Palestinian-initiated boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, and it follows the model that ultimately brought down apartheid in South Africa. In the US, it is being implemented state by state, so there is some general information up there, but I'm going to focus on New York State and the well over $350 million invested by our state comptroller, DiNapoli, on behalf of the approximately 1 million New York State employees who are part of the New York State Common Retirement Fund. Okay, so that represents a large number of the unions that New York State employees will. Comptroller DiNapoli has autonomous control over these investments, and the information is very tightly held. Freedom of Information Act requests have been filed and denied in our efforts to gain more understanding about his actions and his choices. I think on a very basic level, it's possible for me to understand this in the terms of, if you are a person who objects to New York State retirees and future retirees' money being used to support the Israeli government at this time on political or moral grounds, purchasing these bonds with taxpayer money is a terrible idea. And if you object to New York State retirees and future retirees' money being placed in low yield, low value investments, these bonds are also a terrible idea. So no matter how you cut it, it doesn't require
political agreement on every count in order to understand this important campaign. I'm going to end with a piece, a little tidbit here of really good news, which is that, we sometimes have to gauge the effectiveness of our campaigns a little bit remotely. And what has happened is that Comptroller DiNapoli has opponents in the primary for the first time ever, and that one of those opponents is quoted in the New York Post. That's Raj Goyal, and he is a straightforward Democrat, as saying that he will take a very hard look at the $350 million the state comptroller invested in Israel bonds amid displeasure over conduct of the Gaza war. That is a very strong statement that we would not have heard before this campaign was in place.
Thank you, Carol, Lee, and James. So just in summary, we have up here, this slide is just an overview of a few calls to action related to what we presented today. So we encourage you to make a statement if you're if you're affiliated with a group, to contact Representative Mannion in regards to this Block the Bombs campaign, to sign the Break the Bombs petition. There's also there's a bit of a fleet of people who are going to Albany on the 16th to hand deliver the petition to the Napoli's office. So if you're interested in that, definitely contact JVP. And also you can follow all of us on socials to stay up to date on, progress on any of these campaigns, other events that are happening. And yeah, the QR code, which I'm not sure actually if it'll scan, brings you to JVP Linktree, which the first top two are these campaigns, and I believe there's forms that you can fill out very easily. So these are just very simple introductory actions that we can do, but if enough of us do that, it really does contribute to the sea change. We're seeing this with the pressure on Mannion, we're seeing this just the sheer number of people who've already signed on to the Block the Bombs Act. So I guess in summary, whether you are on the front lines in the streets or organizing in the background with your community to keep each other safe, there's so many things that you can do to push back against fascism. So there's a lot more that we need to do beyond just these things, of course. But I think getting involved in these kind of introductory ways and encouraging as many people as you can to also do that is going to make all the difference. So, talk to your coworkers, your friends, family, faith communities. And my personal recommendation is to make it a social thing, because we need social energy to prevent burnout and to really keep the momentum up. I personally have joined JVP, I think it was like a year and a half ago, and I've made friends as an adult for the first time. I'm 41. So it's a wonderful thing, and I think you all are probably experiencing that through this coalition, and I encourage you to keep it up and help keep each other energized. So hopefully our presentation helped draw some connections between violence our government doles out domestically and abroad, and shows how speaking and or showing up on behalf of when one group is targeted is essential to building cross-cultural solidarity that we need to keep everybody safe. So with that, we can go back to that if you need, but we will, if there are any questions, we're happy to take those. Yeah. Is this the only microphone?
I'll take the mic over.
Okay.
Any questions? At the moment?
Okay, do you have a copy of the bond petition here today?
What was that one of the things you handed out? We don't have a physical petition. Yeah, just the
No, if I'm not mistaken,
Mhm.
it's already been closed and ready to be delivered.
the petition is ready to be delivered. I'm gonna have to check on that.
Oh,
and
it's
it's-
you can still eat.
Yeah, that is a very important point, because they're gonna be going physically on the 16th.
You can go onto the website for JPP and see if they can still sign it.
Yeah,
The letters that went around from Mannion, someone will be delivering them to his offices.
man,
I need to flood his office with phone calls. He really needs to hear it. It's ridiculous that he hasn't, signed on to,
I can't ever remember the name. Block the bombs, the bees, too many bees. And it's ridiculous, he hasn't said a word on immigration either, so you could call up his office and beat him up about both those things.
So this
Don't
week
beat up
was-
that.
You can give me the letters and I'll make sure that someone gets them that's going to his office.
So this week would be a crucial time to call me in his office.
Yeah.
So we'll have a reminder in the newsletter about that on Tuesday.
Great.
Doug?
Thanks. I have a question that's prompted by the title of the presentation. The end of fascism in the US requires the 3,000. I don't like fascism, and I'm in favor of 3,000. I didn't hear any ideological or necessary addressing of the US things of what you said. But I do have a question, which is, when was there a 3,000? I think it must be well before the Ottoman Empire, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the land of Palestine has been occupied in some fashion by various empires over time. So I don't know that there's any evidence of a free Palestine that is in modern history. But I don't know, do you have any thoughts that you want to?
Well, I mean, I just think, I think it's a more of a, free, what does free mean? Are we free? I mean, it's kind of a philosophical question, but I think what Palestinians would want, would like is the right to return. They're pretty clear about what they want. And well, maybe we didn't make that clear because we're not really speaking for them, but there's so much stuff out there that you can read and that you can see as to what Palestinians want. And part of the issue with this peace accord that's now being bandied around is Palestinians are saying we weren't even at the table.
Right.
And how can you sit at a table and talk about peace for us without us being there? I mean, I wouldn't like someone talking about things that affect me at a table I'm not allowed to sit at. So I think, I hear your point, but I think it's pretty clear what Palestinians would like. They would like the end of the occupation. They would like the end of apartheid. They would like the right to return. They would like to live in peace. They would like to have their children stop dying. They would like to quit being moved every 20 minutes to a different spot where they're bombed one more time. They would like a healthcare system. They would like running water. They would like a lot of things that a lot of us take for granted in this country, but a lot of the world does not have. And so I think it's pretty clear what they want, whether that's freedom or not. Like that's sort of a philosophical.
Other questions? Or other questions, anybody?
Yeah, they were additional recently, the letter,
I'm sorry, when were they asking?
additional.
I don't, but I
apologize. I'll apologize. If anyone has one, please give it to someone else. I apologize. I didn't bring enough.
John Manley has a town hall,
Yes,
virtual town hall in the stuff.
yeah, that's this Tuesday,
Yes.
virtual town hall.
So if you guys will work, why is it?
Yes, no, thank you. The virtual town hall here just came up.
That's fine.
Yeah, but does anybody have that? Because I did not write that down. You have to register for it. I know it's on his socials. It's been promoted to me in like paid sponsored ads on his socials. So I think if you were to go to Mannion's website, that information should be there to sign up to join the is it virtual?
Yes. Yeah, it's a virtual.
Virtual roundtable.
I just saw it.
Question here?
It's a response to the question about making a direct connection between the administration and war in Palestine and is the question. Well, my direct connection is that the Trump administration has been talking about taking away the rights of the Palestinians to govern themselves, to decide what to do with that land, and that's exactly what they're doing to us in this country, is taking away our rights and using the military to take over this country. And so that's the direct connection. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I want to thank the Peace Council, Jewish Voice for Peace, and Party for Socialism and Liberation for this presentation. Please watch the newsletter for specific actions you can take and ways you can get involved with contact information, as well as a request to call me in this week. Yeah, it's not at all a surprise that he would not back the plan of bounds for us, supposedly. He's good on some things, he's good on sounding like Donald Trump is dangerous and wants to do away with him. He's horrible on immigration and on a number of other very big issues. So call him up and let him know that.
Sure, just real quick, while I've got the mic, I just want to flag one other sort of ongoing connection between the Palestine issue and our fights here at home, which is that the Trump administration has been systematically trying to suppress pro-Palestinian speech and protest. Right, there was a federal district court decision just a couple of days ago finding that they repeatedly violated the First Amendment by trying to detain and deport people solely as a result of their pro-Palestinian activism. So that's another connection here at home. Okay, so for new folks, we have 6 committees that are meeting today. If you're brand new, you don't know what any of them are. I'm going to give you like a teensy tiny description of them right now in like half a sentence for each one. My recommendation is just go to one of them, check it out. Whichever one sounds most interesting to you right now, check it out. If you don't find a good way to tap into what they're doing this time, come back next month and go to a different one, right? So everybody's welcome at all of these. Just choose one and check it out. So we have 6 committees meeting today. 3 of them are meeting down here, and 3 of them are meeting upstairs. So down here, we've got climate justice. The name is pretty clear. So that's our committee of folks who are working on climate issues, a lot of focus on microns typically these days. Our federal legislative teams are meeting here. So if you're interested in engaging with John Mannion, Chuck Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, etc., that's the room for you. Our outreach and education team is meeting back there. So that group is working on ways to get our messages out into the community, tabling at various community events, inviting various partners to come here and speak to us, trying to turn new groups of people out for these meetings. Upstairs, we have our state and local action team, which, as the name suggests, works on state and local issues, engagement with city council and the county legislature and the state legislature, etc. Our protest organizing team is meeting upstairs. So if you're interested in pitching in to help out as a marshal or with media work or in any other way with the October 18th No Kings action, please come to the protest meeting. That group also organizes a weekly Friday evening pop-up protest at rotating locations around the county. The organizers of that action are looking for help as well. So that's the meeting for you upstairs. And the third group meeting upstairs is our electoral action team, which, as the name suggests, is our members who are particularly interested in helping out with electoral campaigns. Right now, they're very much focusing on our local races that are on the ballot for November, especially Elaine Detton's campaign for county legislature, but to the extent that capacity allows, other local races as well. So again, protest, state and local action, and electoral team are upstairs. You can just go this way up the stairs, or if you need an elevator, it's this way. Thanks, everyone.